There's a whole range of values in a market, within a specific industry for your type of business. And where you land on that market is going to be heavily determined by what we call the intangible capitals, the things that don't show up on that spreadsheet that impact how you're able to grow.
Leaders are looking for that kind of opportunity to step in or have input in the direction of the business. And you need to take their opinion seriously, because sometimes their ideas are a lot better than sometimes what we come up with.
Having a system and process in place, having a team of people who are not just job fillers, but really leaders in their individual roles and what that means for the overall trajectory of the company, like that's a big shift that we need to make. Thinking about freedom first. Hey there, entrepreneur. Welcome back to the Scale to Sell podcast, where we help business owners like you build your transferable value, create more freedom, and exit on your terms. This is episode number 54. We're excited to talk about your year of freedom, how to build a business that works without you in 2026. Or, because this is a podcast, whatever year you happen to be listening to this in.
2032.
Yeah. The good thing about what we're talking about today is it really does transcend every year. And so we're going to start off with an important question and then dive into some of the important things that you should be thinking about if creating a more valuable business and creating more freedom in your business and personal life is something that you want to achieve, whatever year that you happen to be listening to this in. So what if this year is your year to finally create freedom for you and your business, not just and move away from owning a job and really truly owning an asset? And the problem that we see most often when we're talking with business owners, as they enter a new year, as they enter a new season of their life or of their business, things just seem to just keep getting busier than the last. And they think that freedom comes after growth. If I could only just grow more and scale, then I'd be able to have the freedom in the business that I'm looking for and the opportunities that would provide. But that's not really the case, is it, Steve?
Early on, it is. Early on, you have to create chaos. You have to be engaged. It's just time consuming. But you get to a point, and hopefully it's now, that you realize that if you're going to top the numbers that you did the prior year, it can't be all about you. It has to be about people and processes, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, there's a big difference between the startup phase, like you're just having to
do everything.
To really get involved in making things happen and bringing on the right people as you're continuing to grow and do things. But having a system and process in place, having a team of people who are not just job fillers, but really leaders in their individual roles and what that means for the overall trajectory of the company, like that's a big shift that we need to make. Thinking about freedom first and not some of the other kind of tangential things that really aren't helping you build transferable value. That's really where you see the freedom that business owners get to experience, is when an owner understands that the system has to work without them present in order for it to truly grow and to truly be the value that you want to have. To have a high valuation, it can't be reliant on you, the business owner.
And it's difficult. Some people are, control.
Yep.
No one else can do it as good as you. Well, you're going to have to come to a point where you understand that may be true, may not be true, but you're going to have to learn to delegate. I learned that a while back. There's only so many things I can do. And I was the chief everything. And then it was and I always made better money than the year before, but it takes a toll on you after a while. It is a grind. And you want to get to the point in time where you have a life. And but that's why you have teams, the right people in the right places. And so you can continue to grow. And we've said it before on here, if you're not ready to exit, you're ready to exit when you have people and processes and there's value and your client base and a lot of things come into play right there. But it also, if you're ready to exit, then you're ready to grow and you're ready to have a life, and you're not just a highly paid, highly compensated employee in your own business.
Yeah, and this is something we're actually going to get into more in the next episode too, is really how do you kind of move past being that operator role and move into more of the opportunities that are going to develop the team, give you more freedom and things like that. But you can't be the go-to person for everything in your business. You would be the limiting factor on how much your business can scale and grow, and really the value that others would see into it as you go to transition and take that next step. And so thinking through and really having a vision for creating freedom and transferable value is really going to give you the opportunity to fulfill the roles that you want to, recognize that other people are going to have to be involved, that this is going to grow and be something that is valuable beyond yourself, and give you the opportunities to have the right kinds of exit options when the time comes for that.
As a financial advisor, I always know when I talk to a business owner, if they're so busy that they don't have time to talk to you, one, maybe they just don't want to talk to you. There might be that. but a lot of times they're so busy with things, and that's kind of it's a telltale sign. It's a check engine light on that business that if you take them out of there, will the business continue on? What happens if you get hurt or sick and can't continue to work, or you want to exit or cut back? Many business owners would like to continue to own their business forever, or whatever their time left is on the plan. Well, if you're going to be able to do that, I assume you want some time off, and you need to make sure that, as we mentioned, the people and processes are in place.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about the 5 aspects that you need to focus on if you are going to create a valuable business, if you're going to create that freedom that you want, and be able to have the exit options that are going to give you the opportunity to achieve the things that you're wanting to, right? We talk about scaling with the end in mind. And this is really that intentional way, the 5-part system to be able to do that we call the Scale Freedom Framework. So SCALE is an acronym to cover the 5 different parts of this. So I'll go ahead and run through the 5 of them just so you get a sense of it, and then we're going to talk through each one of them. So the S is strategic assessment. Then we move on to continuous growth, asset protection. L is lucrative exit, and E is enduring wealth. So again, scale there, nice little way to remember the different parts of this. That as a business owner, if you're going to create freedom, these are the things that you need to do for your life and business. And so strategic assessment, know your value and what freedom looks like. If I had $1 for every time that we've had to say, you need to know your numbers, and not just a guesstimate, not just well, I think this is what I need, or I hope to get this, or this is what I need to see, but like truly what your business is worth on the market. That is a really important first step in all of this.
The benchmark for a lot of people is just profitability. What were my sales last year? What did we do this year, or this quarter, this week, this month, whatever it might be? They measure it top line, bottom line number. My top line number, what did I end up with in my pocket? Well, I made more money this year than last, so I'm good to go. That's not necessarily true. We're talking about the value of the business. What does the marketplace say your business is worth? And getting that strategic analysis done, and our team can do it for you, it highlights both the positive, the strong points in your business, and some weaknesses in your business. Client concentration, you got too few of clients, or your employee turnover is too high, or whatever. It assesses a lot of things, not just the value, but there's a lot that goes into it. And that report that we prepare for you at no cost, by the way, our team, we got team members that could do that. Know your value every year. Know your value, grow your value, protect your value, as we'll talk about. But that's the starting point of this whole conversation.
Absolutely. Knowing your numbers, understanding what the value of your business looks like, because like Steve was saying, the sales figures, what you took in, and all of the profit loss type numbers, that's one part of the picture. But there's a whole range of values in a market, within a specific industry for your type of business. And where you land on that market is going to be heavily determined by what we call the intangible capitals, the things that don't show up on that spreadsheet that impact how you're able to grow and serve your clients and be profitable and continue to be a valuable company in the future. From the teams and how they interact with each other, the quality of the people that you have, the talent that you've got there, your customer capital, right? You were talking about customer concentration being an issue. If you're overly reliant on just a small amount of people for the vast majority of your business, that's a problem. That's a risk that someone coming into the business and valuing it would assess as this is an issue, right?
Unless there's long-term contracts, that's the way
That
to
can
mitigate.
mitigate it,
Right.
but yeah, still a concern of making sure that those things are in place and that the contracts are up to date and that you've got all those things. So again, it's going through the teams, your customer, the structure of your business and how you operate, the different systems and processes that you have in place to be able to replicate the work that you do, as well as the rest of the team, so that it's not reliant on just one person. And then the social capital, the culture of your business and the impact that has, that can be a real differentiator on your brand and how people perceive and interact with you, and really the value of what you're able to charge and the work, the quality of the work that you're able to get done. All of those things factor into that if you're just looking at the profit loss statement, if you're just looking at those figures, you're going to miss out on and potentially undervalue what your business is really worth.
Some people will pay a premium for that it factor.
Yep.
They don't know what you're doing, but your clients love you. They rave about you. They refer you to other people. And anyway, and somebody comes in, will pay a premium for that. On the other end, if you don't have that going on, that it factor,
they want a premium discount.
That's not the great one. We want to know the value of our portfolios, our 401ks, our IRAs, our brokerage accounts, our savings accounts. We want to know, and we check on that, sometimes daily or at least ongoing, but we don't know the value of our largest asset as business owners, the business.
Yep.
What is it worth? All right. What is not what you think, not what you guess, but what does the market say it's worth this year?
Absolutely.
And so that's the kind of key starting point right here.
And the other part of the strategic assessment that often gets left out, and we see this reflected in the numbers of people who are disappointed in their exits from the business a year later because they didn't do the personal and financial side of the planning that they needed to in advance, was really understanding, what does freedom look like for you in the business, but also in life? What is it beyond work that you want to be a part of, right? You're a business owner. You're a go-getter. You have invested a lot of time into your business. You're not one to normally just stop doing something. And too often times you see business owners have no clarity on what they want to do outside of the business. And it really impacts their enjoyment of life, whether or not you're still owning the business or not, right? Having hobbies, having different passion projects outside of work, all of those things are beneficial. And of course, tying that to the financial part of it, having a plan for how you're going to harvest the money from the business and be able to fund those other parts of your lifestyle.
As exit planners, we focus and make sure you're aware of that. It's hard to go from your hobby is your business, right? And you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week in your business. Don't have time for golf, pickleball, fishing, or anything else. Now, some of you do that from time to time, but a lot of successful businesses owners, they are all consumed with the business themselves. It's their life. They sacrifice even their personal and family life because of the business. And as you said, it's hard to go from running 60, 80 hours a week or more to, what do I do now? I sold the business.
Yeah. There's only so many, Netflix watches that you can
Binging,
do. Yeah.
right.
It's not really, not the same kind of purpose that you're used to when you were building a business. And when it's done right, you see what happens when someone knows what they want to do and is able to invest that time, effort, energy, resources into those projects and into those opportunities or fun lifestyle things, and what they're able to accomplish when they have a plan. But oftentimes there is no plan.
That's true. And sometimes it's buying another business or starting another business. They just ready to exit out of this one, take the money and go.
Absolutely. So that's strategic assessment, knowing your numbers, knowing what freedom looks like, and really scaling with the end in mind, which we're going to talk about again in a little bit. The next one is continuous growth. So again, we've referenced this fact that if we are going to grow, you need to have the systems and a leadership team. And I say leadership team as in every employee is a leader in some way in their department, taking ownership of what they're responsible for and moving towards the goals that the company has for that quarter and that year overall. That's really the meaningful part of creating a system that allows the business to grow and scale in value without you.
And if you're having high turnover, where we've heard over the last 5 or 6 years, where people are finding a hard time finding and keeping key employees or employees in general. Well, when you get employees that function, like you said, like an owner, they think like an owner without any ownership stake in the business other than a decent paycheck, rewards. We like giving incentives, bonus type incentives.
Yep.
People like time off. They like to be acknowledged. There's a number of things you could do to get them and motivate them to be and treat them like an owner without, again, an ownership stake. They become like family and not in words only and just the way you treat them, and they will step up. People are looking for that opportunity. Leaders are looking for that kind of opportunity to step in there, have input in the direction of the business. And you need to take their opinion seriously, because sometimes their ideas are a lot better than sometimes what we come up with.
Yeah, again, it's developing systems, not just looking at the increase in sales to know what type of impact you're having on the overall value of the company. And one of the things that I like as a certified exit planning advisor, as a CEPA, as what we call it, is the system that we use of continuous improvement every 90 days, right? So quarterly cycles of improvement based on the goals of the company. And there's different priorities, depending on what stage of the business you're at, where you're at in that growth process, to be able to know what should we focus on now. And at the end of it, we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, but asking the business owner, asking themselves, okay, am I looking to continue to grow or exit? And what impact is that going to have on the goals for the business and my goals personally as well? That's just, to me, that's an incredibly helpful thing to be able to break down into bite-sized, manageable pieces. Okay, here's what our goals are for the quarter. You have the monthly check-ins. You've got the weekly things that have to get done in order to achieve that goal. It really gives you a path to run on. And again, it makes it a system that is not dependent on you, the business owner, for everything.
You've got to do it. I'm motivated. Competition motivates me. Sometimes I just compete with myself to
Hates
set
being
the
number 2.
bar higher. I don't look like I'm competitive, but I am ultra competitive. And just setting goals. I'm like in setting daily, weekly, monthly goals, and we don't always hit them. Sometimes you set them too far out, then you learn we want them to be reachable, right? And not where, hey, we're bummed out every time, but we can't make them so easy that it's not really a goal itself.
Yeah, you learn the process of understanding, and it's a part of the research and understanding what our goals should be, and making adjustments. That's why the check-ins are so important in that process, so you know where you're at. Are there adjustments that needs to be made in order to hit the goals that you have and to continue that cycle of continuous growth? So strategic assessment, continuous growth, asset protection. So protecting the business, protecting the personal aspects of the business owner from the financial and those sorts of things. That is a key part of this whole planning process and the development of creating freedom for the business owner.
There's so much threats. It's your largest asset. It's your main source of income, perhaps even your family members. Like in my business, my wife, my partner in most of my businesses, Adam and my other son, Kevin, their wives are involved in the business, and then others as well. But anyway, it's not just your largest asset. And even though I've diversified over the last a bit of time, and I have other assets, it's still the business as I own is still by far the largest asset I've got, even though I've tried to diversify. So you got to protect it. Got to know the value. You got to grow the value. You got to protect the value. How do you do that? What risk? What things are a threat to you? Employee turnover, right? AI right now is going to eliminate a lot of jobs. It's going to eliminate and a lot of businesses won't be here in 5 or 6 years. But there's other threats. Key employees. What happens to you if you're the key everything in the business and you get hurt in an accident, all right? or you get ill out of the blue, something comes on you, or a key employee. What's the threats there? We have those conversations with business owners. Client concentration, we talked about that. You either fix it through solid contracts with your clients, or you broaden it, you broaden out, and you go out and do marketing, whatever other sources to bring in new customers. So we want to eliminate all risks as much as we can. It's impossible to eliminate all threats, but try to reduce as many of them as possible. And anyway, to protect that asset.
Absolutely. Well, because you've got, like you were talking about, business threats, whether that's changing markets, impacts of supply chain, global pandemics interrupting the normal process. Yeah, we understand what that one's like. You have all those sorts of things. Then you have the financial side of it, like you were talking about personally, your personal finances and how you protect the varying assets. What happens if you can't run the business, or if things change in the market and your business isn't as worth as much anymore as it used to be, or just in general, how do you get out the money that you have in the most efficient, effective way? That works too. And then, of course, personally, like you were talking about, you could have different incidents that happen to yourself or your family that impact your role in the company. And if those things happen, what does that mean for yourself, your family, for the business long term? That's where succession planning comes in. People don't like to think about it or talk about it because it's a future thing. It's unknown. We don't like it. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't plan for those things, like you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well over 90% of business owners think it's important to do, but it's not urgent.
Yeah.
It's not urgent. So they go, well, it's like one of those things, like with clients as a financial advisor, like long-term care. They all think it's important, but most of them never get around to doing it. That's a problem. We've seen business owners, I can think of a few of them right off the top of my head, where partner disagreements.
Yeah.
Burnout is a lot of things. I'm hearing that a lot. I'm burnout. Well, that's great. Then you're the chief everything, and the business starts to suffer and slides back, and now you can't sell it. You need to sell it, but you can't sell it because the numbers aren't where they need to be, or in some cases it are into the red now, and it's not a business that has any value right now. I've seen businesses lose millions and millions of dollars in value in a short period of time because of just a handful of these action items.
Well, and if you're thinking that an internal transition is the answer to all of these questions, and you do no planning and preparation for it, you're in the same boat just as well, right? We see the stats that only 30% of the second generation succeed in taking over that business. It gets even worse the further down the line you get.
3% after that.
That's problematic. So just because you're like, well, I'm just going to hand it off to my family, to key employees,
yep,
that doesn't solve the problem. That actually makes the problem more specific and the need to address it even more if you're going to protect your asset and actually have it continue to exist.
Sometimes people are blinded by their kids, right? Their flaws or what they're good at. And so, yes, you need to have the same kind of blueprint you would have to sell it. You need to have it to hand it off to a family member or a key employee, whoever it might be.
And speaking of exit options, the next one is lucrative exit. Scale with the end in mind and try to maximize what you keep. And this is where oftentimes I think one of the big problems in this area is owners are not educated on all of the different types of exit options. They think of the main ones, like the broad categories of, do I want to sell it to someone or do I want to keep it internally? But the different variations of what that could look like and the different hybrid options of things are really could be the right solution for the life that you're trying to create and what you're needing to get from the business personally and financially. But if you don't know, it's hard to build a business towards that and give yourself the exit options because your business is valuable, because it is attractive to other potential buyers or, you know, a good business to transfer internally. They just don't know. And so it limits what they see as available and the path that they take in order to accomplish those things. Again, having a team of people that understands this is why having the one-stop shop is important.
We have M&A advisors, people that out there have a long track record in selling businesses successfully.
Yeah.
And then we have tax attorneys to help you keep more of what you pull out of it. I love, it's kind of like people with money in the IRAs. I've got $1 million in my IRA, Steve. You and the IRS have got $1 million in your IRAs. You sell your business, you and the IRS have whatever, $5-10 million in equity in your business, and they want their cut. And they're going to probably take about 20% of that. A business center I'm talking to recently going to sell the business worth for about $10 million. And they're going to have their capital gains can be somewhere around $2.5 million. Well, I'm sure if they knew things like our tax attorneys know that to keep and greatly reduce that down. So all these things are part of it. So whether it's an in-house thing and you're going to sell it to your kids and you're going to become the bank and finance it, we don't recommend that. We recommend you take some of the equity off the table. Maybe it's a key employee. Maybe it's a third party, a competitor. Maybe it's private equity, large or small. There's so many options, internal, external options. And as you mentioned, maybe you sell part of the business. You don't even have to sell all of the business. I've seen in some cases where you'll sell 70, 80% of the business, retain 20 or 30%, and the new entity grows that business up. And your other 20 or 30% may be worth many times over what you harvested out of the business originally. And so there's so many options out there, but you're right. Most people don't know all the options.
The last one that we're going to talk about here is enduring wealth. And part of what you were just getting at ties into both the exit and moving forward with your life beyond that business, even if it's, like you were mentioning earlier, it could be that you're going off to start a new venture. But whatever the case may be, enduring wealth, living free after you exit and building that legacy that continues on. And part of that, like you were just saying, with the tax issue from, not just the income side, but you've got the capital gain side of things. And then of course, estate planning and how do you set things up for your legacy to continue even beyond you. All of those are strategic questions that the sooner you start thinking about them and planning with them, the better you're going to be, because you've taken the time, you have time to adjust things, get them set up properly, consider the alternatives, and really make an informed decision about the path of your business, about the path of your finances and legacy beyond it. Again, talking with the people who are professionals who do this type of work and who are experts in their field, who can help you achieve the types of results that you're wanting to achieve.
A financial advisor, it's amazing. Individuals, but business owners are guilty of it too. If you've been successful and you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars a year, and you've worked hard all your life and you want to go have fun, people really don't realize how much money it takes setting it over in a side investment in the stock market or annuities or cash value life insurance, CDs, bucket of gold, whatever it is. Yeah. They really don't understand how much money it takes to create $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 or more a year in money in your pocket. And then once you have money in the pocket, let's say you got everything lined up, and you're going to hand it off. You're talking about creating a legacy, handing it off to the next generation. What does that look like? If you've got one of your kids, let's say you got 2 or 3 kids, and one of them's in the business, the other 2 aren't, and the business is the largest asset, how do you split up the rest of the assets equally, right? I assume that you love your kids equally, and one kid's going to get the business, and what do you do? Because most of your assets are tied up in that business, and protecting it legally, trust and those types of things, and tax mitigation. You need to have a team. Right? And some people just pick things off. We like to have a team where everybody's working on the same page.
Yes.
The attorneys, the M&A attorneys know what the M&A advisor's doing. They know what the financial advisor's doing. Your trust attorney is rebalancing everything, into the future. And so you have a team. You have a family office, so to speak, or your board of directors where everybody's on the same page. Some people have these people independently or separately, and they need to be working on the same and pointed in the same direction for you.
It's really hard to get the types of results that you want if, as you were saying, the professionals that you have working for you are siloed off. They're experts in their own area, but if they're not communicating and up to speed with where everyone is going and working in towards the goals that you have, again, scaling with the end in mind, it's really hard to create the actual plan that you should have if everyone's just kind of doing their own thing without that information and without working in sync with one another to create that. So again, the 5 parts, if you're going to create freedom for yourself this year in 2026 or whatever year you're watching this, 5 parts: strategic assessment, continuous growth, asset protection, lucrative exit, and enduring wealth. Those are the 5 categories of things that you need to be considering and approaching in your life and in your business. And it starts with, this is January 1 of this year. So perfect time to be talking about quarter 1 goals. What is your goal for this quarter? Think through, as we were talking about earlier, the 90-day cycles that we like to do as certified exit planning advisors. Think through what types of goals do you have for quarter 1, and what is that going to do? How can that help you achieve the types of freedom that you're wanting to, based on what the value of your business currently is and where you're wanting to go? Again, all starts with strategic assessment. Go to scaletosell.com/assessment, scaletosell.com/assessment, or click the link in the show notes below to get really a quick assessment of your life and business and where you're at, but also that opportunity to get a free valuation of your business. No risk, no obligation. Great information for you to have clarity about where you're at and help you determine where you should be going and how to get there. It's a great starting point for that. Steve, any last comments before we wrap up?
It 100% is. In setting goals, we find I used to set annual goals, and then you get so busy, you forget about them. You're talking about 30, 60, 90 day, just rebalancing and figure out where you're at. But that's important. But yes, I agree that strategic analysis, it sounds complicated. We only need a few bits of information from you. It's pretty simple, as Adam mentioned. If you go to the links, we can get that to you pretty quickly and get back to you, review it, and we'll do it. We'll do it quarterly if you want, but you need to absolutely get it done at least once a year.
Absolutely. Scaletosell.com/assessment. And until next time, keep scaling.